Welcome back to the TWSN YouTube channel. My name is Harrison Vapnek. Before we get into the new set of college football playoff rankings, conference championship previews and predictions, I'm going to ask you to subscribe to the TWSN on YouTube. Follow our social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. So much great content. The NBA season's getting running. The Warriors are really good. The Suns are really good. Got a lot of great NBA content from our guys. College football season's just wrapping up. We got bowl games coming up, the best part of the season. We've hit the stretch run of the NFL season. So many teams in the playoff race. NHL starting, college basketball is fully underway. So much great stuff happening. Go follow TWSN, all great action on there, and also subscribe to the TWSN Patreon for all our best bets and services. Again, college basketball bets, NFL bets, college football bets, bowl games are coming up. We have so many great picks. I'm hitting on 60% this year. We have so many people hitting so many other bets. Our CEO, Malik Wright, hitting on a bunch of his parlays with the UFC. You don't want to miss out. Make yourself some money and subscribe to the TWSN Patreon. Now on to the new set of college football playoff rankings. All right, week 14 rankings. They're released tonight. Let's fly through them as usual. We got the sticky notes, some updates, some news I'm going to go through as we go through these rankings. Obviously, got to hold out the pen, of course. Let's start with number one, Georgia. They've been there since the start of the rankings. They've been the best team in college football all year. They are going to go to the college football playoff regardless of their result in the SEC championship against Alabama. Georgia looking for their second one under Kirby Smart. They beat Auburn. I think it was on this day, 4 years ago. They beat Auburn in the 2017 SEC championship. Chance to do it against the other Alabama team. Georgia's a 6.5-point favorite. I like the Dogs. Even if they lose that game, I still think they're going to get into the playoff just because of how dominant they've been this year. Michigan Wolverines, number 2. They did it. They beat Ohio State. They got over the hump. Fully deserved for them. They think they were at 6-ish last week, 5, making that jump up to number 2. Great win from Jim Harbaugh there, went away from their first college football playoff. Alabama, number 3. Cincinnati, number 4. Buckle up, guys. I know the hate I've given to Cincinnati all season long. I've been anti-Bearcats, but brace yourselves because I'm about to actually defend them. I thought Cincinnati should have been 3 this week, and Alabama should have been 4. Alabama struggled with Arkansas a lot 2 weeks ago. They won 42-35. They did not play well offensively. Defensively, they gave up 35 points to KJ Jefferson. They moved down a spot after that. Last week, they needed 4 overtimes. I hate the new overtime rules, by the way. Completely different story. They needed 4 overtimes to beat Auburn's backup quarterback and a first-year coach. In a game, they were down 10-3, and they had to go 97 yards to go tie the game at the end of regulation, and then got to stop in overtime and clinched it with that on 2-point conversions. Cincinnati had I thought, pretty good performance on the road against East Carolina, who isn't a bad team. I think they went 7-5 this year. They're going to a bowl game. Cincinnati, I thought, played well on the road. Alabama didn't really play well. They got a win. But I thought Cincinnati should have jumped Bama. But it doesn't make too much of a difference, except that Cincinnati would have had a little more comfort room going into the final week. But they just got to take care of business, and they'd be good. Alabama obviously will play Georgia. Oklahoma State, 5. The Cowboys are surging. They look like one of the best teams in the country. They had to finally get a win against Oklahoma. Haven't done that since 2014. They're a win away from being a real conversation. They play Baylor again. They beat them 24-14 back in October. I love what the Cowboys do on the defensive side of the ball. They went 4 straight games where they gave up 2 touchdowns, and that came in the second half of basically a garbage time game. 31 points to Oklahoma. They're down 12 points in the second half. They rallied. They came back. Huge win for Spencer Sanders. Mike Gundy might be the college football coach of the year. Outstanding. And I think they can beat Baylor and put themselves in a position. They have clearly separated themselves, though, from number 6. Notre Dame has 0 wins against teams in this current top 25. And they don't play next week. The Irish, I'll go through the scenarios in a little bit, but the Irish are in an uphill battle. They do not play a conference championship. Remember, last year they were in the ACC and had a chance to win a conference. They got blown out by Clemson, and they still got in because they were number 2 in the country, undefeated going to that game. But the Irish have it's out of their control. Oklahoma State is now ahead of them, and they're winning against Baylor, and Georgia winning against Bama from essentially clinching that spot number 4. And even if Bama wins, they could have an argument against Cincinnati. But we'll see how that works out. Ohio State 7, Ole Miss 8. They're out. There's nothing else they can do. The Buckeyes, great season. They folded. They lost to the 2 best teams. They played Oregon and Michigan, and they didn't play well in either game. They lost the same way both times because they couldn't stop the runs. And Michigan, all over them. Oregon, all of them. It was CJ Verdell and Travis Dye in the first game, and this one was Hassan Haskins. It was easy for those teams running the ball against Ohio State. They'll play in the Rose Bowl, looks like. Ole Miss number 8, outstanding year. They went on the road. I was all over that game. Went to Mississippi State and won. They're going to New Year's 6 game, but playoff field is out of control. For when it comes to 9 and 10, they're not out of it. I'll go into a little bit, but there is a crazy scenario 9 and 10 can get in 2-loss conference champions. Because look, if it comes down to a 2-loss team, the committee has to go to conference championships because that's the most important factor. And I think both Baylor and Oregon would jump Ole Miss and Ohio State. They're both underdogs. Baylor is a 5.5-point underdog against Oklahoma State. Oregon a 3-point dog against the Utes, who they lost to, got destroyed by a couple weeks ago down in Salt Lake. Michigan State number 11. They're going to go to New Year's 6 game because if one of Baylor or Oregon loses, they go up a spot. They're already in the top 12 zone, or number 11 right now. They're in a good spot. They'll go to their first New Year's 6 game since 2015 when they beat Baylor in the Cotton Bowl. Mel Tucker in year 2 taking them to New Year's 6. Good job for them. BYU 13, good season. Iowa 13. They did it. They won the Big Ten. They won the Big Ten East or Big Ten West. That is, sorry. The second time ever they did in 2015, the year they came a win away from the playoff. I don't think they're out of it, but they probably are. But a conference championship in chaos means, anything can happen. They're going to give Michigan a test. They will give Michigan a test on Saturday. It will not be a cakewalk for the Wolverines. Iowa is a tough team. Good quarterback play. I'm not sure if Petrus is going to play. He didn't play the whole game against Nebraska, but that's a team that plays great defense. They already went to Ames and won. That's a tough place to play. They have good wins. They beat Minnesota, who's not a bad team. They're just a well-coached team with Kirk Ferentz that they're not going to get blown out by Michigan. Oklahoma 14, devastating loss. Lincoln Riley's gone. Then the last 48 hours will have ripple effects in Norman for the next 3+ years. Number 15, number 16, Pitt and Wake Forest are going to play for the ACC title. That's going to be a good game. Utah number 17, they blew out Oregon a couple weeks ago. And they're only a 3-point favorite, though. They're going to play in Vegas. I kind of like the Ducks in that one. Good season for the Utes. NC State 18, good year for Dennis Leary, their quarterback, and the Wolfpack. San Diego State 19. Clemson at 20. I wrote them down. Finished the year strong. That's exactly what they had to do. I think they're back in the playoff conversation next year. A little off. Ungangale had a slow start to the year. He's gotten better. They're bringing most of their team back. Watch out for Clemson. They'll be in the top 5 to start next year. They don't play Georgia week 1. They're gonna be fine. I don't know. Bowl game to play maybe the what are those ACC games? Maybe play in the Cheez-Its Bowl down in Orlando against a good Big 12 team. They're right in it. They'll play in a solid bowl game. Houston, number 21. They're a good team. 11-1. They lost to Texas Tech week 1, and they've run the table since. They'll have a chance to win the American on Saturday at Cincinnati. Arkansas 22, big win against Mizzou. Number 23, Kentucky. Good to see them back in the rankings. Louisiana, number 24. Their coach Billy Napier is now going to Gainesville, and then Texas Tech, number 25. That's basically it for the rankings. Now let's just hop into what we've all been waiting for, and it's the clinching scenarios. All right, the one we've been waiting for, the video, the college football playoff clinching scenarios. I'm going to get a quick sip of water before we get into it because it's a lot. All right, how every team in the range can clinch their way to the college football playoff. Georgia, 12-0 season. The only thing they have to do is get off the bus at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Win or lose, UGA is going to the playoff. They clinch the number 1 seed with a win. Don't need to waste time for the best team in college football. Next up, Michigan. All you got to do is beat Iowa on Saturday. All Michigan has to do is beat Iowa on Saturday, and then the playoff lose, they're out, win, they're in. I like Jim Harbaugh's chances in that one. And if you were told Michigan fans before the start of the year, 1 win to make the playoff, they'll take their chances. They've never made it before. They're in the best chance they've ever had. Next up, Cincinnati. 12-0, 12-0 last week. They are playing in the American. All they got to do is beat Houston at home. You lose, you're out. You win, you're in. I'm not sure. The only scenario where they wouldn't technically be in is if they struggle and Oklahoma State looks really good and Bama beats Georgia. Because then Bama and Georgia are both in, and Michigan's in because I think they'll beat Iowa. But then you don't want to get yourselves into a debate with Oklahoma State if they blow out Baylor 52-7, and Cincinnati wins a dogfight with Houston, because then you're putting yourself on some thin ice. So beat Houston at home and play well. Cincinnati will be the first Group 5 team to make the CFP. Next up, Alabama. Upset Georgia Saturday, you're in. You're probably the number 1 seed. You're 11-1. They only lost to Texas A&M. There is a world where Bama can get in if they lose a close competitive game. The reason I put competitive is because of this. If Bama loses 24-21 but they're down 24-7 with like 5 minutes left and score a couple garbage time touchdowns. That's not competitive. They need to lose like 37-36. Back and forth game. Bryce Young touchdown. Stetson Bennett touchdown. Back and forth. They lose because Georgia scores at the last second and wins. That's a competitive game. They need to be in it for 60 minutes. If they, especially if they lose. If they win, they're in. But if they lose, it has to be because they were in it for 60 minutes and they just got outfought. If they lose that game, they're not automatically in, but there's the world would be, they would need Baylor to beat Oklahoma State, Iowa to probably beat Michigan, and Houston beat Cincinnati. And that'll definitely, I don't want to say definitely because nothing's definite with the committee, but that'll put them in a very comfortable position with Alabama. So what the easiest part to do is just to upset Georgia on Saturday. Notre Dame. It's tricky. You need Georgia to beat Bama, but that's the more likely one, or kind of another upset at the top, Cincinnati, Michigan, one of them losing, etc. Because Notre Dame's right now, what, 6th in the playoff rankings? Yeah, 6. So they're right there on the edge. They have a couple teams they have to hurdle over. That's why they need kind of one loss from that team to eliminate. They're 11-1. They don't control their own destiny. It is what it is. And then probably need Baylor to beat Oklahoma State also to feel a little more comfortable. They need some generosity from the committee. They don't play in a conference. The committee's got to see, hey, Notre Dame is that team that should get in, and maybe they'll get in. Another team will need some generosity. Oklahoma State. They moved up in the rankings. They're now number 5. They need to beat Baylor and look good. They don't need to win by 30 points. They don't need to score 60 points offensively. They just need to look good. They can't fall behind 14-0, fall behind 21-3 and rally back. That's not really the team Oklahoma State's been. I know what happened last week against Oklahoma. They're down 12 in the second half and rallied and won the game, but I thought they looked pretty good in the second half. They need just a confident performance against Baylor, that is, to make the playoff. It would also really help if Georgia beat Alabama or another upset at the top. And the committee needs to realize that college football conference championships matter, because I don't see them falling behind Notre Dame, but there could be a way if they don't play well, but they still win. They're like, hey, Notre Dame's probably the better team. Just put Notre Dame in. They need to realize that conference championships matter, and Cowboys just got to look good, and I think they're going to get in, assuming things figure itself out at the top. The other scenario that is not written down on there is if they look really good, but Bama beats Georgia, because then Bama and Georgia are both in, and Michigan's probably in with a win. You need to put yourself in an argument with Cincinnati, because you need to play really well, and you need Cincinnati to not look great against Houston, but still win. Unless Cincinnati loses, then they're definitely in. But you want to kind of make that a debate, because it kind of gets you in. But the more comfortable scenario is this right there. Baylor. I think they're in the best spot of any of the 2 lost teams right now, and there's the reason being. Beat Oklahoma State handily. They're capable of it. I'm not sure they're going to do it. They need Georgia to beat Alabama. Not unrealistic. Houston beat Cincinnati. That's an upset. Iowa to beat Michigan. Utah to beat Oregon. Because at that point, you're eliminating Oregon. You're eliminating Michigan. You're eliminating Cincinnati. They would need to get the nod over the other 2 lost teams. I think it gives them the edge over both Ole Miss and Ohio State, because those are also 2 lost teams. But the conference championship matters. They have a win against Oklahoma, win against Oklahoma State. They would redeem themselves, which I always like. They have the bad loss to TCU, I know, but conference championship, Big 12, playing good football. I think they could hop 5 spots if the right scenario falls to them. Next up, Oregon. It's an uphill battle for them. They need to beat Utah handily, which I think they're capable of. They need Georgia to blow out Alabama. Just get Alabama out of the picture. Houston to beat Cincinnati. It's also part of the whole the formula. Iowa to beat Michigan. Baylor to beat Oklahoma State. Eliminate Cincy. Eliminate Michigan. Eliminate Oklahoma State. Eliminate Bama. Oregon, can they get from 10 to 4? You need to put yourself in an argument with Iowa and Baylor, and you need the committee to give you the nod. It's a lot, but it's possible. Speaking of a lot, Iowa. I refuse to count them out. Not because the chairman of the committee is Gary Bardo, who's the Iowa athletic director, but if they beat Michigan by a lot, like 24-3, and just dominate them, and Georgia blows out Bama, and Houston beats Cincinnati, and Utah beats Oregon, and Baylor beats OK State to eliminate the teams currently ranked 2, 3, 4, and 5. You put yourself in a conversation like, hey, this is a 2-loss conference champ, and they beat Michigan, and they've played good football, and they won the Big 12 or the Big 10, that is, and there's not really good options, because at that point Notre Dame and Georgia are the only kind of locks. You're putting yourself in a conversation with Baylor and with Ohio State who they'd have some common opponents. They'd have a common opponent in Michigan, who Iowa would have beaten and Ohio State would have lost to. So yeah, the last part of that is just utter chaos. Here are the New Year's 6 spots and how those up for grabs. I kind of sorted it in locks. The teams are definitely going to be in it, up for grabs, and kind of the wild cards. So there are 6 locks. No matter what happens this weekend, these teams will play in the New Year's 6. Georgia, win or lose, they're in the playoff. Michigan, if they lose, they're going to go to the Rose Bowl. Ole Miss is in, they don't play. Notre Dame is in, they don't play. Ohio State's in, they don't play. Bama loses, I think they're still in, they probably go to the Sugar Bowl. Up for grabs. Winner of Pitt, Wake Forest gets in. Cincy, Houston winner gets in. Because if Houston wins, they're the highest ranked Group of 5 conference champ. So even though Cincinnati's right now number 4 and Houston's number 21, Houston wins that game, they're in the New Year's 6 spot guaranteed. Oklahoma State Baylor winner gets in the New Year's 6, and then Oregon Utah winner gets in the New Year's 6. That winner will go to the Rose Bowl. We could easily see Ohio State and Oregon play in a rematch in the Rose Bowl, which is not a lot of people are talking about. It could be really exciting. That gets us to 10 because we have 6 at the top, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2 extra spots. Michigan State gets 1, and then either the Big 12 championship loser, maybe Oklahoma, maybe Iowa if they win against, well, if the Iowa wins, they're definitely in. But then maybe Cincinnati could get in. So Michigan State's probably 11, then figure out 12 when we get there. Predictions for the Saturday. I'll have a lot more betting stuff on the Patreon, and I'll have, this is kind of me spitballing. This might change. I'll on TWSN tailgate. I'll go through a little deeper. These are my predictions for Saturday. I think Georgia beats Alabama by double digits. I think they look good. Michigan, Iowa will be a dogfight. I'm going with the Wolverines in a close game. I think Cincy's going to look good against Houston. I have a gut feeling that Cincy is going to feel the urgency to play well, and they're going to do it. Beat Houston, I have them 45-21. Oklahoma State, I think, beats Baylor. That game could be close early on. Cowboys defense will get them back in and pull away. I think Oregon's going to be Utah. I know I've been down this path before. I know I'm the mayor of Utah. I said they're going to win the Pac-12 before the year. I can just go finish off my prediction. I'm at the goal line. I can go stretch across the pylon. But I'm going with Oregon. I think they're going to do it. 3-point dog. I'm all over them. And then Pitt Wake Forest is going to be a high-scoring game. I'll go with the better quarterback in Kenny Pickett. College football playoff. This is what I think it's going to be on Sunday. Georgia 1, Mich 2, Cincy 3, Oklahoma State 4. I'll be at the Orange Bowl. I'm really hoping it's orange. It's Georgia, OK State. I think that this is the most likely scenario. Oklahoma State wins, they're in. I don't think Notre Dame jumps them. I'm not sure any other 2-loss teams get in. Bama certainly doesn't. Baylor, no. Oregon, no. This is what I think it turns out to be on Saturday. And we're going to get Michigan, Cincinnati, which I don't know who Ohio State fans are going to root for in that. And then the best team in college football in Georgia is going to play one of the best defenses in Oklahoma State. Definitely one of the hottest defenses in the sport. So that'll be interesting. And then my other New Year's 6 games. Orange Bowl, Georgia, OK State, Cotton Bowl, which is the other semi between Michigan and Cincinnati. Rose Bowl will be Ohio State and Oregon. You might be wondering why I don't have Ohio State and Ole Miss on the how they can get in. I don't see a scenario. They can't do anything to help their cause, and they're a non-conference champ. They're out. I have Ohio State playing Oregon in a rematch in the Rose Bowl. Peach Bowl, we're going to have a very offensive game between Kenny Pickett and the Pitt Panthers taking on Matt Corral. I think the first pick in next year's draft, and the Ole Miss Rebels. Sugar Bowl, SEC champ versus Big 12. Neither of those champions are in that game. They're actually both in the playoff. We'll have Bama taking on Baylor. And then Fiesta Bowl, Notre Dame, Michigan State, the 2 teams left over. That'll be a good game. I think that's it. I will wrap it up with this. Follow TWSN. We have so much great stuff coming for Bowl Week. I'm going to have more predictions. Subscribe to the TWSN Patreon, that is. TWSN Tailgate every Saturday at 11 Eastern. Going through predictions. This Saturday's going to be fun when we're going to go through the college football playoff discussion, go through conference champs. It's going to be fun. Thanks for watching. Rankings, clinching scenarios, all that. We'll see you next time on TWSN YouTube. Thanks, guys.